Music Talk is cutting through the noise with this scintillating conversation with Chk 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 frontman Nic Offer. The new album is Let It Be Blue, a record inspired by an Eno quote. Every idea obscures another. So you got the album coming out, Let It Be Blue. Now, you can probably figure that I'm an aging boomer myself. So, dance music and electronica isn't my number one choice. I'm, grew up in the 60s and 70s and listened to all that stuff. So I was pleasantly surprised when I heard Normal People, which kind of this acoustic folky thing. So was that a plot to draw me in?
Start to say what it'll do to me, but it's not like it's exactly new to me. And if I came up with another excuse, you see, just wouldn't sound like the truth to me.
This might surprise you, but we're not really like chasing the boomer demographic.
Okay, fair enough.
But we should, because boomers still buy CDs, so we should.
That's true.
But no, it's funny because I've been reading a couple boomer books lately, and I realized, I came of age in the 80s, and the 60s loomed large on the 80s, so
Yep, absolutely.
Certainly, and the bands that I liked like that, I liked, the English groups that were into Motown, and I liked the Smiths who were into Velvet Underground or whatever. So, and the Beatles was, I started with the Beatles. So it's there, it's in me.
Yeah. All right. So what drew you to lead the record off with a track that sounds so different from the rest of the record?
I always liked a first song that was surprising,
Okay.
And I know that with us, especially, there's people have their kind of idea of what they think we are. And so it was just kind of a way. I think it really set the tone of like anything can happen on this record now. Most people know at this point we're a dance band. So if you hear that first thing, you're like, wow, well, what are they going to do next? You're not. My guess is you're probably going to listen to track 3 at least. So so it's just that kind of thing, and I think there's also a tendency. There's serious bands always get to kind of go dance music. And people are like, "Oh, the serious band is doing dance music." But dance bands never get to go serious.
I see what you mean.
So we're always looked at as like, "Oh, they're just about partying and stuff." And it's like, sure, it's good to have songs about partying and things like that. But we also believe that at the heart of our dance songs is a normal acoustic song you can often strum too.
Yeah. Now, continuing on my boomer obsession, as I was listening to the album, I suddenly heard my favorite band's name in the middle of it, which is Mott the Hoople, which, and I'm familiar with Man on the Moon, but I didn't think you guys were covering Man. I figured it was another Man on the Moon. So thank you very much, and tell me how that came about.
Mott the Hoople in the game of life, Andy Kaufman in the wrestling match, Monopoly 21 checkers and chess, Mr. Fred Blassie in a breakfast mess. Let's play Twister, let's play Risk. See you in heaven if you make the list. See you in heaven if you make the list. Now, Andy, did you hear about this one? Tell me, are you locked in the punch? Hey, Andy, are you goofing on Ellis feet, baby? Are we losing touch? If you believe, they put a man on the moon. Man on the moon.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, I mean, that Mott the Hoople in there is like part of like, I think Mott the Hoople is kind of one of those bands to Michael Stipe that R.E.M. is to me. That was a band he probably listened to in high school, like I did, and so that stuck out for him. So it has that, kind of those. I don't spend a lot of time listening to the music I grew up on. I kind of left that back then, but all those people remain heroes for me and are kind of like in there. Like when I'm working on, the original groove for that song was something that we called the Jungle Brothers groove, because we thought it was more like of a 90s hip hop thing kind of, but it was just kind of, somehow it's just suggested that kind of, I always just kind of go with what I'm hearing. And I just was hearing Man on the Moon. So I just started, when I looked up the lyrics and started singing them to it, I was like, man, I'm not, there's no way around it. Like Michael's going to write better lyrics than me every time. So like, I think I'm going to go with these lyrics, And it felt like I think that, I think there's a lot of interesting things, around concept or the conversation around appropriation and the way that ideas are transformed and the way that ideas change and I like being a part of the conversation of ideas. And follow me all the way out of here on this one. I hope I don't get too whatever, but I think one of the interesting things about TikTok is where people are interpreting other music and they're interpreting other songs, and that's become a new creative way to make a song your own and to say something different with the song. And honestly, and my hope would be that, you know, that people will kind of take this approach to other covers. You know, it is a radical reworking of a cover and a different way to approach it, but it still can. It's a creative dialogue. I like to think that it's a dialogue back and forth between us and R.E.M. and 90s hip hop, you know, and it's creating something new from that dialogue of conversation of creativity.
Have you played it for Michael Stipe?
We did. It was really one of those things that as I was starting to finish it, I was like, man, I think they would actually like this. I think they would think it was cool. And they indeed, a couple weeks after it came out, they tweeted and Instagrammed about it, and he said he really loved it.
Wow, that's good.
He gave it the highest praise. He said it had like made his night or made him dance that night or something. It was like, Jesus Christ, that's fantastic, you know?
Mission accomplished.
Yeah, definitely.
Now getting to the actual meat of the record here. From my reading, the word sparse keeps coming up when talking about what you were thinking about when you're making the sounds. And so is that true? Is that a fact? And if so, how so? Why so?
It's one of those things, you know, kind of, you know, it's one of those things we've always been working towards. And you know, the Brian Eno concept of every idea obscures another, you know, is certainly like something that always, you know, we thought about, and we always think about, like, you know, I think I heard it from like RZA or something, like, you know, about the Zen masters, like contemplate what line to take out of it and stuff. Right. And so it's like, so it's that is something that, you know, we definitely consider, and it was much easier to consider since we were working on this record kind of separately and on computers. So, you know, often when everyone's all playing together, people don't tend to just stand and hold their instrument. People tend to just play it, you know? So since this was a much more studio record than it was a live record, we kind of thought it was good to focus on that, you know?
So that process of a studio and working independently, how much do you prefer working like that? Is it just another way of working? And how much does that have to do with what we actually hear on the record?
I wouldn't say I prefer it, but I really enjoy working on my own, you know, like, I'll put it to you this way. I mean, you know, definitely it was something we wanted to lean into for this record. And because we wanted each record to be different. And because of the circumstances of 2020, we were like, okay, well, this is going to make this record different, and will also enable us to make the record after it different, you know? So when we returned to the band, so that was exciting. We liked that whole idea. And so we enjoyed working in that way. I wouldn't say what I like better, but I like working in many different ways is what I like.
Okay.
So, you know.
And I'll just touch on a couple of tracks. Here's What I Need. I believe the video was shot by Chris, your drummer. And it seems kind of like a personal message and story behind the song going on, which isn't necessarily a thing that dance music is known for. So tell me a little bit about that, if you don't mind.
I've gone to see you, driving through a snowstorm at your old apartment over on Park Road. And when I saw you looking out the window as you opened up the front door, I knew I had moved on.
Well, you know, it's funny. The thing about dance music is that it can be really personal, and it just doesn't have to be. You know, it's and there's dance music can do so many things, but certainly an aspect of dance music which we did originally connect to was, the disco era, and some of those songs that you would hear at the especially when we first moved to New York, we were going to a lot of like the classic house and disco clubs, and that disco is emotional, and those are like songs that those loft classics and the ones they played at Body and so on. So those songs can make you cry. Those songs can be very personal, and so certainly that's an aspect of dance music that we have always connected to as well. It's funny because we always feel that we put it in there, but since it's dance music, people tend to always not pay attention to the lyrics, kind of going back to the normal people thing. We feel that there's many songs throughout our past which are really personal, but no one ever really pays attention to that aspect. But it's quite possible that your ears may have been more open to it because of the first acoustic song. Although I would say that I think with Here's What I Need to Know, that it's pretty stark and it's right there for you to kind of know that it's a personal thing,
Yeah.
So, but hopefully the acoustic thing helped lead to that,
Right. And it's preceded by a song which I'm going to attempt to pronounce called Un Puente, which with Angelica Garcia featured in that one. And I did Google the title, so I know it means a bridge, but that's about all I know. So enlighten me further if you don't mind.
Well, that was, we kind of had been talking about, I'm going to forget the name of the artist, but, she had done a Song Exploder episode where she talked about how when she writes, sometimes she'll sing in English and sometimes she'll sing in Spanish because it suggests different melodies and rhythms from each language.
Sure.
And so Raphael wrote the lyrics on that, and he grew up speaking Spanish. He grew up. He lived in Mexico City till he was 10 years old, and so he sings songs and writes songs in Spanish. So he's talking about joining those two worlds of his two languages. He's talking about I think he's saying something about how you see a wall where I see a bridge, and he's trying to join those two things. So. And that's really what we did with that song. We wanted to, we're kind of mixing like a Detroit type beat with, the more contemporary like stuff that's happening from Dominican Republican stuff, and we were again hoping we're creating something new, So so the lyrics kind of speak to what the song is actually doing,
Gotcha. And so when you have somebody like Angelica coming in to add her input to it, what kind of conversations, communications, input do you want from her?
Well, the way we worked with Angelica is how we worked with everyone. It just worked extremely well with Angelica. But we always kind of send people things and we'll say, if you hear something, go for it. And with her, actually, we did ask for something more specific. We asked her to just kind of sing the hook and then do whatever she wanted. And I'll tell you what, it's like, for me, the first 4 seconds when we pushed play of what she sent back, I would have just taken that and that would have been enough. But she did a bunch of other killer stuff too. And it was just like, oh, this is fantastic. It was like, it worked the best. A lot of times we'll get stuff back from people and it'll be like, yeah, maybe we can cut this up or do something cool. And other times, all kinds of things happen. But with her, it was just chock full of great ideas. It was really exciting when we got that track back.
Cool. Now, another track I want to touch on was It's Gray, which almost has kind of a punk vibe to it. And then as I was listening to it, I started having visions of Plastic Bertrand in my head. And so,
sure. That's a good call. Yeah.
It's gray, it's gray, it's gray, it's gray, it's gray, it's gray, it's gray. It's gray, it's gray, it's gray, it's gray, it's gray, it's gray. It's gray, it's gray, it's gray, it's gray, it's gray, it's gray, it's great. Glass closing in and it looks grim, but the sun still shines in my mind.
punks. We grew up punk, so that's kind of in it. And that was just kind of like but I'll tell you what I was thinking of, but I'm going to say would be a direct connection to me to Plastic Bertrand was, we're also kind of thinking of like Here Come the Warm Jets era kind of, and we tried to like not go for just a typical punk guitar sound. There's like a wall of keyboards and noise to give it a kind of juicier, just to give it something unique. But I'm if you're a punk at that time, at the time of Plastic Bertrand, you definitely were listening to Here Come the Warm Jets in high school. There weren't that many weird records to choose from back then. That was one of the ones that kids had.
All right, I'll pick one more track to dissect the final track. This is Pop 2, which so it must be at the end of the record for a reason. And my understanding is you kind of drew from Suicide, from the band Suicide as well when you put that together. So maybe you can tell me a little bit more about that.
This is pop and it goes in your ears. All that matters is you like it there. This is pop and there's no defense. It's silly, it's stupid, it's just pretend. Comes in waves, it's got nothing to say. And if you ask me, it's better that way. This is pop, so fucking good. This is pop and it's understood. There's nothing to understand.
Well, it's funny because I actually had a dilemma when the person who wrote the thing said that. I was kind of like, I feel like Suicide is so commonly referenced,
right?
And it wasn't what I was thinking of, and so I almost wanted to change it.
Yeah.
And I kind of wanted the couple of things that I thought about a lot of things. Obviously, I thought about XTC,
right?
And I kind of thought about Jesus and Mary Chain, and I didn't think about it at the time, but when it was finished, to me, it sounded a lot like New Order. But the actual impetus of it was that I was reading a book about Kraftwerk, and I was thinking, I was thinking about how, like, wow, the motoric rhythm is such a common kraut rhythm, and we've done so many things. I've never done that. And I was like, well, what if I just tried that?
Yeah.
And when I got that going, one of the things I really liked about Kraftwerk that I thought was interesting was the way each album would have a concept, and it was like them kind of looking into to the Audubon, into into computers, into into the nuclear power plant, like each, and I thought that was really cool. And so I like the way that they present this detached thing, and they're kind of in love with it, but they are detached from it, and they're presenting to you like, and so that's what I did with This Is Pop. So to me, I wanted to, I'm ultimately fascinated with pop music in the way that they were fascinated by the Audubon. And so it was me presenting a pop to you kind of but I'm not as detached and computer-like as those guys. I have a very emotional feeling, very emotional about pop music. So I think that comes into play with it.
Gotcha. Now you've been doing this thing since about 96, and your previous album came out, 2019. A lot has happened certainly since 1996, and even almost as much in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, do you see people perceiving or ingesting this music differently than maybe when you had originally planned?
Yeah, I'll tell you, straight up and down, when we started, we just considered that we were just gonna be playing in basements on the West Coast for our friends, kind of. That was like the original idea for the band. So yeah, it's it's always kind of changing, and it's like, now we're in the like playlist world, and that's like it's a completely different thing. So I'm not going to say that I love all the changes in music that have been in the way the industry works, but I mean, some of them have been better than I ever could have dreamed. Like, to have the entire history of recorded music
at your fingertips.
At my fingertips is, man, I'm not mad about that at all. That's fantastic. Like, if you had told me that in 96, I would have been like, when is this happening? I'm still just as excited about the music, and that feels like the most important thing about it to me. So it's fantastic to be out here making delivering a record that has some things I'm really excited about, you know?
Right. So, and since pandemic wise, I mean, I know here in New Zealand, people are still kind of reticent about going out and hanging out in clubs and whatever, and they're just kind of getting used to the idea again. What's the vibe like where you are?
Fuck, man, I don't know.
Okay.
It's just so tricky. It's back and forth. It's so loaded. Every different kind of like take on it, an opinion, and going out hasn't been able to like fully be a thing. You know, every time it starts to kind of start happening, then it pulls back. You know, so you know, we had to cancel practice this week. Our guitar player got COVID. He was the last one to have it, and
right.
That was the best thing that could have happened, because now we're all vaxxed and boosted and out on the road, and we've now the whole band has had it, so we're safer than other bands would be. But you know, our shows are pretty physical, and we're like sweating with the audience, and so I don't know what's going to be out there for us when we go. You know, it's going to be tricky. So there's no the only report I can give you is that there's no official way things are going right now. You know, it's still pretty topsy-turvy.
Cool.
You know.
So but other than that, you're thinking about the live show, obviously, and once your guy gets back up to speed. So are you thinking it in different terms of when you would have 3 years ago?
I mean, certainly, yeah. But just because there's a part where I go in the audience a lot,
right?
You know, so that changes that whole. And it's been one of the, and honestly, you know, one of the first show we played last September, the first show after it was in Brooklyn, and it was honestly one of the funnest shows we've ever played in New York. And we played some really fun shows over the last however many years. You know, there's been some great ones, but this was really like one of the ones. And we had got to this point where we were now jamming a lot more, and I was out in the audience dancing a lot, and it was one of the best parts of the set. Everyone, the crowd liked it, we liked it, and it was just great. So now we're kind of it's one of the most exciting parts of the set, and we don't know what to do.
Oh well, you kind of have to go with the flow when it happens, I guess. And
yeah, that's exactly that is what the plan is. That is what the plan is. So we'll see, you know. But it is so. To answer your question, yes. But how exactly we're going to act it, I don't know.
All right. Well, hopefully you can make it down to these parts at some point, and
we'd love to.
We'd love to have you. Yep. All righty. Well, good luck on May 6th when the record comes out, because you know I talk to people. I go, well, what are you going to do when your record's out on the release day? They're like, well, probably have a cup of tea, or nobody's doing anything anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rock and roll.
All I know is that it's Raphael's son's birthday, so we might do something for that.
There you go. Excellent. All righty. Well, thank you so much for spending time with me. I appreciate it.
Cool. Yeah.
Good luck with everything.
Thanks for your questions, and thanks for your interest in the record.
My pleasure. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Take care. Bye-bye.